Good afternoon, everyone. Today is May 16th, 2022, and we are in a work session for the Salisbury City Council. A moderate agenda today, so we'll go ahead and get started with a proclamation that's going to be presented by City Administrator Julia Glanz for National Police Week.
Well, good evening, Council. Hopefully we get out of here in one dry piece later tonight. But today, this week is a full week of acknowledging important groups within our city. It's EMS Week, which we recognized last week for this week. It is, I think, Nurses Week. I think it's Military Folks Week. It's everybody. So it's a lot of celebrating and honoring to go around. So I just want to read a short thing and then ask Chief to come up to accept the proclamation on behalf of the Salisbury Police Department. So it's an honor to be here to offer remarks on behalf of myself and Mayor Day, who could not be with us this evening, in honor and celebration of the brave women and men who comprise the ranks of the Salisbury Police Department, those who serve us today and those who have gone before. This year marks the 60th National Police Officers Memorial Day, as well as the 60th National Police Week. This time is set aside each year to reflect upon the lives of those souls whose end of watch came too soon. Those whose chosen responsibility to the well-being of their fellow citizens required them to pay the highest price. Public servants such as SPD's own Henry T. Stevens, who's lost his life at the hands of a criminal on September 5th, 1958. We mourn his loss still today because family remembers. Policing is difficult, it's demanding, it's a life of shift work, overtime, and elevated risk of personal harm. And yet, even though citizens often won't encounter a police officer until a moment of crisis or frustration in their lives, they depend upon you at all times, and you stand ready to answer the call always. I and Mayor Day are proud of our officers. With every shift, you continue to prove that this is the finest police department in the nation. And we are so grateful to you and every sacrifice you make. Let us also take a moment to think of the family and friends, the ones who depend upon you to make it home safe at the end of every shift. They too sacrifice, they miss you, and they worry about you. Every day, they lend you to their fellow citizens. Let us, and all of those who you serve, do everything we can to keep you safe and let you know that we appreciate you. So, Chief, if you'll come up to accept this proclamation. So it says, whereas there are more than 8,000 law enforcement officers serving in communities across the United States, including the dedicated members of the City of Salisbury Police Department. And whereas more than 23,000 law enforcement officers in the United States have made the ultimate sacrifice and died in the line of duty since the first recorded death in 1786. And whereas the names of these dedicated public servants are engraved on the walls of the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial in Washington, D.C., with 619 new fallen officers being added this spring, including 472 officers who died in 2021 and 147 officers who died the previous year. And whereas the service and sacrifice of all officers who died in the line of duty were honored during the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial Fund 34 annual Candlelight Vigil on the evening of May 13th, which you may have attended. And whereas the vigil in part of the National Police Week takes place this week as Peace Officers Memorial Day in honor of all fallen officers and their family at a time when the United States flag should be flown at half-mast. So now therefore, on behalf of the mayor, do proclaim this week Police Week. So there you go, Chief. Yeah.
This is my favorite part. On behalf of the men and women, both sworn and civilian, of the Salisbury City Police Department, thank you very much. It is an honor to serve. It's a particular honor to serve here in the city of Salisbury. We really appreciate all of the support that the city is showing. It means a lot. I cannot stress that enough. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief, and please share our gratitude to all the men and women at the Salisbury Police Department for their service day in and day out. Next up is going to be it's Chief Duncan, a resolution to accept a forfeited vehicle to add to the SPD fleet. Oh. You can blame Colonel Mindshine for this because his name's on the thing, but they put your name on the agenda.
That's quite all right. It's one big team. As a result of a criminal case in circuit court handled by Salisbury Police Department officers, as part of the disposition of the case, the court has awarded a forfeiture of a 2013 Nissan Altima, VIN number 1N4AL3AP3DC164605. Additionally, the court ordered that this particular vehicle be awarded to the Salisbury City Police Department. The police department has determined that the vehicle needs approximately $1,700 of minimal cosmetic repairs, which would be needed to pass inspection. The approximate value of the vehicle is $10,000. The police department requests that this vehicle be accepted and that the vehicle be incorporated into the city police department fleet. Are there any questions?
Everybody okay
No.
moving this forward? Yeah. So you have consensus?
Yes.
All right, we're
Thank
good?
you.
Thank you, Chief. Next up is Non-Conforming Use Zoning Exemption Program update from Hcdd Director Ron Strickler. Mr. Strickler, how are you doing today?
Great. How are you?
Good.
Delicious.
Yeah, the sun's shining. We haven't had that in a while, right? All right, so just presenting a 6-month update on the Non-Conforming Use Zoning Exemption Program. As you know, this program was created on multi-levels to solve quite a few number of problems in the city. The majority of these properties that we identified were vacant, in disarray. Others were not, but I would say right off the bat, we had come up with a list of about 14 properties. Since that time, that number has increased to 18 properties we've identified through the process. We had sent out an initial mailing probably about a month and a half after the program kicked off. Didn't get a very good response, so had sent out an additional mailing probably 2 months after that. At that point, we had code enforcement officers, as we've dealt with these properties through vacancy, blight, and other reasons, get in contact directly with these property owners. And I am happy to report that we are getting response back. Currently, we had our first application come through. It needed some updating, so we worked with the property owners. So we do have one under review right now. That property is on Newton Street, and have also identified 4 additional properties directly around that area that are in the process of creating the rehabilitation plan to submit. So our department right now, Hcdd, is reviewing the current rehabilitation plan. That'll be processed by us and then sent over to DID to make sure that they get proper permitting and sign off from DID before they move forward with any work. Additionally, one of the things that we thought would happen with this program is once property owners identified their property as qualifying for the non-conforming use, is we would see some of these properties hit the market, which we have. One in particular on Isabella Street in 2019 sold for $80,000. Currently listed for $285,000 and is under contract. So we knew that by doing this, we could increase property values by eliminating blight and vacancy, and we're seeing that happen. I don't know what the sale value of that property is, but it's specifically listed in the selling description that it is eligible for the non-conforming use zoning exemption program, which we knew would drive up the property values. And then we have a couple other outside in the cities that we've had direct contact with the property owners, and a few under rehabilitation. So I think right now we have one application, one property that is selling contingent upon being converted into multi-unit, which the property was originally built as. And then we have 6 that are under rehabilitation plans right now. So we're seeing what we expected, and hopefully we can continue to see that number increase. A few of the properties were purchased by family members, and they're actually all living as a collective unit, multifamilies, whether it be extended families. So I don't know that they will be converted, but we're working with folks to make sure we can get as many properties on board. I don't know if we'll be asking for an extension come November, but if we see the need, we'll obviously come back and address that at that point. Once these applications are approved, they have 12 months to have the property rehabilitated and have the certificate of occupancy to be moved in. And we're not seeing any issues. I think some of the concerns off the bat was the off-street parking for each unit. But the plans that we're seeing right now aren't having any problems addressing at least one parking space, whether it be on the property itself or a paid parking spot in one of the city lots. Any questions?
This is fantastic. No questions, thank you. This is great. Loving it.
All right.
That's,
Thank
you know,
you.
it's what we intended, so it's good. I know it took a little time to get some traction. How do you feel about the rest of the property owners? Do you see some movement there? Or?
I think the biggest hurdle right now is the condition that some of these properties are in. That's what we're seeing with the delay. Some of them require major work, actually going in and, removing all the interior walls. And they're working with contractors right now, which are, having trouble finding materials. And basically overworked, that they're just trying to find dedicated time for these contractors to come in and do the evaluation and get a scope of work completed so they can get an idea of what it'll cost. And ultimately, I don't think it's going to deter them because the long-term availability and profitability of these multi-unit rentals would be worth it.
Are you targeting a certain area, or is it just the whole entire?
It is all throughout the city. I think they're over in the Smith Street, Newton Street area by the new community center. We found that there are about 7 or 8 properties over there, some of which we hadn't identified. But through, basically getting in contact, there was 3 properties that sold over there right before the program started. And I don't know if that had anything to do with the expectation that it would. But, we're going to continue to try and identify properties. Looking back, one of the things we came across was, the current zoning, if it's zoned commercial, then there's no requirement for them to be part of the non-conforming use because it allows for it, which we had originally identified a few properties that were in those zoning districts, and they won't be required to apply for the program because zoning allows for them to convert back into that.
Well, thank you for the update.
Yep.
We appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you.
All right, next up is ordinance to approve a budget amendment for the Poplar Hill ADA lift. Rick Baldwin is here. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing well. How are you this evening?
Doing good.
So, good evening, council. So, this request is, previously $75,000 had been appropriated for Poplar Hill Mansion, both for bathroom restoration and an ADA ramp to get into the building. The bathroom restoration has been completed, but the Maryland Historic Society declined to approve the ramp. Too much of a footprint in the back of the, too much area disturbed. So we redesigned what would occur on the back of the building to utilize the existing deck and platform that are out there. They'll be made slightly wider, and in the process, we'll be looking to add an ADA compliant inclined ramp. Wheelchair would be able to roll onto the ramp. It would follow the steps up, and then from there, direct access to the building with some modest modifications to the threshold. DID worked with the Department of Procurement to get bids for this work. We did receive 3 bids. The lowest bidder was not compliant or deemed responsible. But we went through working with the second bidder, East Coast Contracting. Their bid was $73,300, but we had roughly $52,000 remaining. So the request is for the $21,000 increase. And the Director of Finance identified available funds in the general fund's capital improvements.
So
With the amount of change that they have to do in the back, and we're working around the season at the Poplar Hill Mansion with this contractor, it'd be finished in the early fall.
So how is this, so is this constructed where the lift is kind of like on the side and it goes up? Or is it?
So there'll be a post anchored at the base into a small area of concrete. The remainder of the supporting post will go up the stairs, and the ramp just follows right along up the 4 or 5 steps.
We have consensus?
Yes.
All right. Thank you, sir. We'll put this on for Monday night.
Nice evening.
You too. Thank you.
Ew.
All right, next up is the charter amendment to change public hearings requirements of publishing ad in newspaper published in the city.
It's just for discussion. After we talked about it, I kind of thought about it, and, you know, the constant yield is a state requirement that it goes into a newspaper. Annexations are the same way, and charter amendments. I don't know about text amendments to the zoning code, if that is, do you know?
Off the top of my head, I do not. That, if,
What,
I would think it probably would be. I could double check if it's statutory. There's nothing that we can do about that. It'd have to be
yeah.
published that way.
So I guess the only thing that changing the language would affect would be the budget. So is it really worth that? Probably not. Unless, you know, you wanted to add, like procurement did not too long ago. They added a public notice inviting bids shall be advertised using print or electronic media, to leave that option for sealed bidding.
I guess
Whereas
the
before-
concern that would be, what if newspapers stop printing and publishing?
Would they stop?
No, I mean, what if in the next 5 years,
I would.
so to at least maybe add the digital piece to it and remove
To
the,
leave the option of using
Of-
one or the other.
because I think
or
the
both.
language, didn't language say something to the effect of published in the city, but
In the,
nothing's printed or published here, it's distributed.
right.
Certainly, I think we could clean that up, and we could do a disclaimer unless required by statute, meaning so that way we have the discretion to publish it
Yeah.
however we deem fit, but unless the, you know, the state law is telling us that we have to publish it a certain way. So I could go through the charter and the code and do a search for wherever we use the word publish, newspaper, and see how it's written, and then we can clean up the language all throughout, basically giving us that discretion unless the state code tells us we can't.
And at least set it up for the future too. So, because some of that is printed newspapers just quickly,
Like you said,
Yeah.
most people get their information, you know, maybe from Facebook
Yeah. Yeah.
about the city's happenings.
questions? All right, so I guess we'll carry on and maybe bring it up, whenever you get it ready, we'll bring it up again and then maybe try to move forward.
Yep, sounds like a plan.
Not a rush,
Okay.
not until next year.
Thank you very much. Administration, Julia, what you got?
Well, it is a fun-filled weekend. and I'm sure, Mira, you'll be talking about Hops on the River, so I'll leave that to you. But Friday is our the Wheels Third Friday. We're extending the footprint down Main Street towards Mojo's, having a car show, a ton of other, usuals that are there, and some new features as well. We have the movie on Friday night at the amphitheater at some time at darkness. I think the movie's Uncharted, which I don't know what that movie is, so maybe I'll go watch it.
That's a good one.
And then the Haitian Flag Day Festival is on Sunday downtown, I think from like 2 to 6 or something like that. So it is a great weekend, and we have our budget meeting tomorrow if folks want to tune into that. But I think that's it for me.
A couple things in regards to safety. Of course, I think I don't even know how many days now. As far as I'm concerned, it's not soon enough, but I think we have about 15, 16 days of school left or something of that nature. Please be kind with the buses. I've seen too much. I think people are in the rush. I don't know what it is, but lately people have been just zooming past those buses. If the bus is stopped on the road, I don't even care if you're over here and it's a double highway, you got to stop. Please stop for the buses. The other thing is, this morning I saw something that was very, very upsetting. If you are not pulling over to the other lane when it's a dual lane and there's an officer who's pulled over a car, that's very upsetting. For safety, you need to get out of the way, get in the other lane. Please be mindful that, that is your job. They're out there doing their job, and you need to keep them safe. And as always, we do have an urgent need here on the Eastern Shore for blood. If you are healthy enough, please donate blood. Thank you.
Mrs. Gregory?
So I would just say, remember that COVID is still a thing. Numbers are up to double-digit percentages again. So go get vaccinated, boosted, the whole nine. And if you're going to be in close quarters and large quantities, definitely consider masking back up. Other than that, SU graduation is also this weekend. So watch the traffic around the Civic Center this weekend because that's going to be busy. But that's it.
Thank you. Ms. Jackson?
I'd like to commend all the seniors and their proms this weekend. They were gorgeous. I'm actually telling you, they were gorgeous, and I was so proud to see the young people dressed accordingly and looking lovely. And I know you parents are very proud because I was very proud for you. I have a grandson who is graduating, so I was extra proud. But I also want to remind everyone of the dirt bike discussion meeting tomorrow at the VFW 10159, 821 West Main Street at 6 p.m. Please be there. We have some concerns that we need to address, serious concerns. And we want everyone there, parents, bikers, the entire community, the entire city of Salisbury and Wycomico County to come out and meet with the leaders of the community so we can discuss some things that need to be handled with the bikers. I've had some really absurd posts about it, but one thing I can say, these are young people, and because I'm older, they are younger, much younger than I am, and we have to have some kind of leadership in place for them. So if we're going to call them all kinds of names and target them and taunt them, we're no better than they are. So I'm saying, if you're coming to the meeting, this meeting is up not for confrontation, it's to decide what we can do to better help the city of Salisbury with the bikers. So if you're coming with animosity, please do not come. I'm telling you, don't come, because we're not going to have that kind of action at that meeting. We're trying to get a solution to the problem. We're not trying to create a problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Saturday is Hops on the River. So there's 2 rounds. So there's morning and afternoon, or afternoon and later afternoon. So looking forward to that. Andy is going to be taste testing everything, and Julia will be serving, so.
You bought a ticket for each of them. That's weird. I don't know.
He didn't tell that part, did he?
I bought one, and then they sent me like a $5 refund, because I think I was,
Not too early. Yeah.
I bought it on the first day that it came out, so. So, yeah, I'll be attending tomorrow, Tuesday night. Looking forward to the discussion tomorrow night. And with that, looking forward to the city getting back into summer activities and a lot going on. I know our niece had her 8th grade dance this weekend too, so, you know, asked her, hey, did you dance? Did you have fun? Anyway, so with that, I want to thank everybody, and we'll see you all next week. We are adjourned.